So I come from an organisation called Place. We're a not-for-profit entity. You might describe us as a new style of data institution, and Place itself was really set up to help work with governments to map their urban landscapes. So if I get next slide. So I'll briefly skip through this slide. It's quite wordy. We'll share these afterwards so you can have a look. But it's really to say that in setting up Place, it was about trying to address a number of challenges that we're seeing in the world. That incredible increase in the population that's happening in the next 30 years, the number of vehicles that's going to put on the roads, the rapid urban expansion of many of the cities that are happening across Africa at the moment. But also the increasing level of sensors that we have around the world. So the number of satellites that we can get access to, though sometimes getting access to that data can be expensive, can also be challenging to use, and can be restrictive at times to under licensing for governments to be able to use as well. At the same time, in the last 15 years in particular, we've also seen a really big power shift and dynamic between technology companies and governments' ability to capture data and to use that data. So if you think 15, 20 years ago, you would look towards a government to be the only entity that would have the largest and most accurate data about a country. But what we've seen is that flip somewhat now, and your very large platforms such as Google, such as Microsoft, increasingly have more data about a country than a government itself has, though that data is not always freely available to a government to use in that too. Next slide. So particularly for governments over the last 20 years, and myself, I used to work in public service back in Australia for about 12 years. And experienced a number of these myself working in the mapping areas. But nowadays, there's an experience of lack of funding. The technology change is so fast that it's really hard to keep up with. And with all those amazing data types that Claudio talked about, there's an increasing complexity as well. Equally, finding the right people to be able to work with that data can be challenging too. So for all of governments, this is becoming quite a big challenge for them to work with. And probably the biggest is that demand for fresh data so that you can understand the changes that are happening in your environment. Next slide. So Place was set up really to try and help address a number of those things. Next slide. We're a principles-based or ethics-first organisation as well. So we're built on 9 principles that are built around purpose, trust, and function. And a lot of these principles are designed to create an ecosystem in which you can collect data, ensure that it gets to the right people, and share it amongst a trusted group of organisations around the world. Next slide. So in Place, we talk about an ecosystem, and this is where partnership comes really clearly to the fore in what we do. So all of the work we do starts with a partnership with government, and it's a non-financial partnership. So Place brings the funding to do the data collection in their country when the government agrees to do so. When we come to a country to help collect, we collect high resolution aerial photography and also street view imagery. Importantly, part of that partnership is to do a couple of things in the country. One is to work with that government. It's also to work with local partners. Place is about bringing funding, capacity, skills acceleration into a country to both help collect that data, but also to use it as well. Once we've collected the data, what happens is that the root intellectual property stays inside the country. So the government owns the core copy of that data, unrestricted, unlicensed, for them to share and use amongst any part of their government environment that they need to for any of the purposes that they have. What it does, though, is it places a gifted copy into a data trust in the United Kingdom. And that data trust allows for the trusted sharing of that data to any organisation in the world in good standing who applies to become part of the Place community. So it may not sound like a traditional model of open data, but it is about trying to increase the usage of this type of data in a really trusted manner around the world. And I'm happy to answer any more further questions for people later on if you want more details about that. So next slide. Talked about the different products, so we'll skip this one and I can answer more details about that. I wanted to put this slide, and I'll ask Mark to rapidly click on this page as it pops up. You heard talk about the IGIF and UNGGIM earlier in Claudio's introductions. One of the things that I'd say about, if I think back 30 years ago, and stop there, Mark, back if I think 30 years ago when I started working in government, trying to collect these fundamental data themes inside our country was really hard. It took a lot of field work, had a lot of different people involved in different expertise from many different parts of the state that I worked in. And, you know, increasingly when I looked around the world, there are still many countries that really struggle to be able to have these types of data sets within their countries now. If we fast forward to today, though, the exciting thing about the technology shift that we've had is that with feature detection, machine learning, and those algorithms that Claudio was alluding to, we can now take a highly accurate image like a piece of aerial photography that's been collected by drones or by planes, and be able to look at that image and start to draw out these themes very, very rapidly and very quickly. So, for example, our work recently in the Turks and Caicos area, we were able to help them create a digital elevation model 2 days after we collected the data for them of their main island areas. We were then able to help them do a flood model that looked at the watersheds and the disbursement and movement of water through their urban landscapes as well, which provides safety. Next slide. So it's also to say that within Place 2, that partnership arrangement of the way we work, this is not just a project, this is about working with the government to make sure that they can use this data ongoing, and for us to be able to help support them and to be able to continue to go back each year. So it is about trying to help them in a number of those areas as well of the geospatial integrated information framework. So it helps obviously with those finances, getting the new data, but it's also about helping them embrace that innovation and use those new technologies too. And I'm just going to quickly flash up next a couple of the case studies that are being used, and then I'll stop talking so that the next person can speak too. So if you just jump to the next slide. So some really quick ones then. Population estimates are always one of the biggest that people are looking for, and thinking to that partnership and those members that join Place, the World Pop program that works out of University of Southampton here in the UK has actually recently joined Place so that they can use the data to help improve the population estimates they've got. Next slide. Helping secure property rights. So this one's a really interesting one. I mean, I think for most governments, one of the highest priorities is helping ensure they can have good taxes coming through their country as well, which helps with that funding and financing aspect too. A lot of that rests on getting secure property rights or understanding land tenure so you know where you can tax. And what the land arrangements are and those secure property rights too. That supports both that poverty aspect of people having secure and safe space to be staying, but it also underpins and supports for government that ability to have a robust land tax and land tenure system. Next slide. Obviously, we can't talk about sustainable development without talking about the impacts of climate change that we've got too. And so that improving your understanding of the urban landscape so that you can start looking at how you improve your housing resilience, be that to floods, be that to heat, be that to major national disasters that are coming through as well. But this type of imagery supports you in that too. And I think there might be one or two more slides. Insurance. So one of the really interesting ones we've seen come through recently with our imagery is insurance companies that are starting to look at different markets. So looking into countries and emerging economies where they hadn't traditionally gone. And because they're able to access this data, it helps them to do a better risk assessment to be able to start offering new and improved insurance coverage and products to these different geographies. And I think there might be one last slide, and then we'll stop. And this is the last one I wanted to finish on too, and that's looking at this type of data can actually start to help you understand the safety within a city. So this, one of the things we do know is that particularly for women and girls that they're disproportionately impacted by unsafe urban environments. And so by having this imagery, you can start, particularly with that street imagery, to identify what an unsafe streetscape looks like. And be able to really rapidly analyze an urban environment or a routing or a where transport goes, to be able to start identifying safer pathways, which means it might be easier for girls to get to school, or for women to be getting to work where they otherwise would have found it too difficult to do so. And I think that might be my last slide. So with that, thank you for listening, and I'm really looking forward to the panel and to the questions later on.
Thank you very much, Denise, for these wonderful presentations. We're talking about important challenge of the lack of funding, rapid technology changing, increasing complexity of the technology, demand of fresh data, and how to retain talents. And to do all of this, you need a partnership. And you show good examples on how technology can possibility a production in an affordable way of different kinds of data. Thank you for your presentation. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. Kenneth Mubier from the Campus Development Lead, Digital Earth Africa. Please, Mr. Kenneth, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you're calling from. I work as Capacity Development with Digital Africa. This is a program built on partnerships, and we unlock access to free Earth observation. It's part of the Open Data Cube community, and this is the biggest cube after Digital Earth Australia. So in this part of the world, our focus is more supporting countries access this data in various opportunities, such as decision making, from climate to et cetera, all supporting sustainable development goals. In the next slide now, giving you a summary of the program. We are hosted currently now by the South African National Space Agency and working with partners across the continent. One of the value of the products that we have from the Earth observations that we went ahead and developed cloud-free mosaics, which also help the various statistical communities. We have the water observation from space. We have recently the coastlines, which is I'll be able to share on how it's supporting some of the countries. So in the next slide, now just more specifics, some examples. The Digital Earth program has been there the last 3-4 years, and in one of these examples, we're engaging with the Tanzania National Bureau of Statistics in the mainland, and one of the asks was to support environmental statistics. So in this, we had some use cases looking at Lake Sulunga. There is an animation where you can just show the Minister of Finance and you're able to get more funding. And then also we had them terrace reserve as well next to Iringa, and in all this, we were able to communicate effectively from the water observation from space, and even working with the statistical agency in terms of the field work activities, and them also verifying what they're getting from the product. So this is a kind of empowering the governments and working with them on the mile on all job training, and for them to present statistics that actually represent some focus on the part of their asks. So in the next presentation now, slide, you'll be able to see more engagements based on the engagement in Tanzania. Now we went ahead and engaged with the Office of Chief Government Institution now in Zanzibar, still part of the country, it's a quite big country. And now more specifically, we are looking at SDG 13, climate action, and we are working with the university to help the community to be able to use the platform to map the mangroves, as well as use the various cloud-free mosaics that we have, as well as also validate some of the coastline service that we've developed recently, which covers 38 countries. And in this particular case, we had a very good partnerships with the Office of Chief Government Institution, working with the university and working with the students who are part of the Youth Mapper network. And we're able to develop some of these work hosted by Amazon Web Services. We even had a documentary where we're able to share these from the community to the space to village. And in the next slide, just as a summary of some of the works, we worked closely with our partner, Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Goals, hosted by UN Foundation, where I was previously working. And now this was more specifically for Somalia, and some of the needs were to support the training and looking at the various indicators. So in this particular program now funded by Islamic Development Bank, we even had other partners come on board. And more specifically, we had online sessions with the Statistics Office in terms of timely monitoring of the SDGs. And we could actually now focus more on coastline, which is one of their quite vulnerable. and they have a long coastline over 3,000 kilometers. And from that engagement, we were able to work with one of the universities, which was working closely with the statistics. And we had a champion there who was actually going further with the coastline and supporting the National Bureau of Statistics. So this is more of a dynamic ecosystem. As much as we support the statistics, the other partners who work with them and they're able to support them in various asks. So in the next one now, closely slide, you'll be able to see our engagements through Data for Now, which we're very happy to be part of it in its session November 2019. And this was a specific funded by UNSD, supporting Ethiopia Statistics Service, where we even worked with Richard, Uzi, and Fayal. And the asks for these were to look at SDG 1 and 2, looking at agricultural statistics. And in this particular training, we had different stakeholders with the Ethiopian statistics and their partners, and we were able to take them through the platform. And they had some data which they brought, some areas that they wanted to focus on. And for them, they were really amazed to have such a platform where they can just have a snapshot of what is happening within their country, some of the hotspot areas, and some of the data sets that they could require. They had asks for high resolution, and I believe the objective of the partnership is to bring more partners on board so as to support our statistical agency. And of course, in Ethiopia, when you talk about food security, we are talking about TEF. This is our staple food, is injera. Then in the next presentation slide, you'll be able to see we had an engagement for 5 countries now focused on agricultural food security, and we did a roadmap sometime last year, and we were able to identify these countries based on their needs, and we came up with a roadmap in terms of policy brief. And this is just a guideline of institutions like Agricultural Research in Eastern Africa, whom they have never talked about Earth observation, but they really support a lot of ministries and departments in agriculture and food security. So this is quite a good move, and as part of this roadmap, there are plans to also scale up to West Africa with another group of the same called FARA. So these opportunities to scale up to the whole continent. Then in the next slide, now looking more closely with the coastline service that developed last year, we've been able now to support working with our partner in Senegal, Center Suivi Ecologie, supporting the SDG process as part of the SDG group, which we call in French GTOP. And this particular instance, we were supporting the coastal indicators and even having a regional workshops with the different partners, and of course having on board Senegal statistics and to be able to empower them on this reporting. And finally, in the next one, let's just give you some of the resource examples. Working with a group on Earth observation to support the land degradation, and this funded partly by GIZ. We're able to come up with some countries, and some of their needs on land degradation are quite big and do require platforms like Digital Africa. And in the same workshop, we also had trends, and also we had Google Earth Engine training. So we are trying to give countries more opportunities, platforms to support their national reporting. And I believe this in a few months will be something, a game changer in the continent. Then finally, just to share with you some of the resources that we have. It's a free platform, free online courses, also a course on land irrigation from introduction, water resources, agriculture, urbanization, and we still continue to add more thematic areas in English and French. And hopefully soon we'll add Portuguese because of Angola and Mozambique, the diversity as well in the supporting different countries. And finally, acknowledgement of the partners who've made our work possible, to the Australian government and Helmsley Trust. And finally, my contacts and the contacts of the program, so that we may connect with you for in the engagements. And this is a free service to all, to empower everyone in the continent, leaving no one behind. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kenneth and Mia, for your presentation. I'm very happy to see this example of Digital of Africa that take advantage of the huge availability of images in the world. A lot of them, most of them are free images to produce geolocated information to support SDG and women development. I also would like to highlight the capacity building efforts involved in all this process, capacity build that we'll be discussing in a more deeper way in the next session. Thank you very much again. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Guilherme Ladonovski to the floor from the UN SDG Information Center to a presentation. Please, Guilherme, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Claudio, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to one and all. I'm joining you from Brazil, so it's still morning here. Thank you, Mark. Mark, I'll ask you to be rather quick with those slides as I have many of them. So what I want to present to you today is what we've been doing with the SDG Transformation Center, which is a part of the UN SDSN. So we are part of the UN ecosystem, but we work as a network of partners. So we have three offices. One's in New York. I'm attached to the Paris office, and we also have one in Kuala Lumpur. And so to give you a glimpse of what we work on, we publish yearly this report, which we call the STR, this Global Report, and also the Global Commons Stewardship Index. But the STR is essentially a report where we track indicators on each of the SDG indicators at global level. So we're trying to cover as many countries as we can in order to report globally, and most importantly, we are producing the SDG index with that. So we are able to say how well member states are doing in terms of each indicator, each goal, and as a whole in terms of its sustainability. And so far what we have been doing is we've been tracking indicators that are being collected by either the custodians or other agencies and institutions. But in the last 2 years, we have been making the effort of actually implementing some indicators ourselves to fill in some critical gaps. So in the next slide, you'll see, I'm sorry about the PowerPoint misalignment, but all of those indicators are currently being published on our website, so you can use maps to filter by indicator or by overall goal or the overall index for each country. You also have a number of story maps available, so you can look through the data for the past almost 10 years now of data we've been collecting. So this is also published as a PDF, of course. And in the next slide, so in the last 2 years, we started to realize there's a number of indicators for which methodology is pretty clear and it's pretty easy to implement, but it isn't currently being done at global scale. So a number of member states are running those calculations and going for the country-owned, country-led approach, but that's sometimes hard to compare because there are some small differences between implementations, and sometimes you are missing critical information from some countries that haven't done that. So the NSOs haven't really done calculations for that. And so we decided to tackle that, and we started with the geospatial ones, because most of these are going to be using satellite imagery as a primary data source. So you can run that for wherever in the planet. So we did that for the Rural Access Index, which is SDG 9.1.1. We also did it for SDG 11.7. So we tackled urban accessibility as a whole and not just to transportation, which is the actual indicator. And we are also publishing, of course, the methodologies and the step-by-step implementations of how we did that. So all of this is, of course, open access. So in the next slide, you see that why we're doing this is we're trying to fill in the easy wins, right? There are critical data gaps that are not being addressed by anyone at a global scale. So we're trying to fill in that gap and provide this data and just try to advance the the discussion into more useful things than just running more workshops that are too specific to each country's own specificities. We're trying to say, listen, there's a number of indicators we can calculate at global scale. This is using satellite imagery. We can do it, and then we can focus on the ones that we will have a harder time addressing, like SDG 2, for instance, which I'll get to. So on the next slide, so this is the latest SDR. I don't want to delve too much in this slide, actually, so we can just move on. So I wanted to give you a glimpse of what the work that went into implementing those indicators. So SDG 9.1.1 is one of my favorites because it has been around for quite a while now. So it was created in 2006, originally as a measure of poverty. And the original methodology was entirely based on data that was collected through questionnaires, right? So each country would run a certain number of questionnaires and ask people living in rural areas, do you have access to an all-season road? And results were extremely varying because it's very hard to explain what an all-season road is to each of the interviewees. So it was really hard to compare results between countries. And so in 2016, the World Bank, who's the custodian of this indicator, presented this new methodology that is entirely based in geospatial data that could be implemented, and so they helped some member states do that implementation of the indicator, and later on they even published additional guidelines in 2019 on how to do that, and that has been just lying there, and member states can use it, and it's not that complicated, but we didn't have at so far an implementation at global scale, which was a fairly easy task to implement. And so we decided to fill in that gap. So we used openly available data sets. So we use OpenStreetMap and Bing Maps data for the road coverage. And we used several other data sets, like, for example, SRTM slope data and Copernicus surface precipitation data, and also data on how much countries are investing in road maintenance in order to assess whether a road can be considered all season or not. Because if it's impassable at any point during the year, then it's not an all season road, and the population living within range of that road isn't considered to have access to all season mobility all throughout the year. So in the next slide, you'll see that what that looks in terms of all the data we used and the operations we performed. It's not that complicated. It's just very large data sets. So we used a fair amount of Python for that and a fair amount of Google Earth Engine. But it's essentially just a raster algebra. It's not rocket science. And so that's what we did. Then this data is currently available in our data hub, and it can be used by whatever country. And this is also a part of the latest SDR report. So in the next slide, you'll see that we also did that for SDG 11. So we ran calculations for accessibility to key urban services. So the actual SDG indicator covers access to transportation, so bus stops and metro stations. We ran that for a full range of services like schools and hospitals and even food choices. Of course, we have different options to filter through that, but we did that for every corner in every city in the planet. And so this is the scale in which we are providing this data. So we're also making the effort of localizing the SDGs as much as we can. So trying to move away from the one indicator that represents an entire country every time, and being able to say, if you want to know how states, governorates, provinces, municipalities are doing, we can provide this information because we are using very disaggregate geospatial data to run these calculations. So in this case, we have used GHSL data for population and OpenStreetMap data for the road network and points of interest, as well as overture maps data for the points of interest. So this is an example of a city of Lagos and how much time a person needs to walk to get to those key urban services. I think I have one more slide on this particular indicator. This is the final index by country in terms of their access to key urban services. We are not able to provide this for every country. You'll see that we have holes in Africa, and that's places where we don't have quite enough points of interest coverage to be able to present those results with a high accuracy. But this is just network analysis that has been in the known for quite a while, and this is just the implementation at global scale, which essentially just poses the challenge of infrastructure, right? So being able to run these calculations at global scale, and we have become very recently become able to run that thanks to the evolutions we've seen in the field of technology in geospatial recently. So these are two indicators that we have published recently. You can get access to this from our data hub, but we also try to cover. So in the next slide, you'll see we also try to cover indicators that are not necessarily SDG indicators. We have a second report, which is the Global Commons Stewardship Index, which essentially tries to map what's the impact that countries are having in other countries, right? Am I on time?
Yeah, if you can please come into the conclusion.
I can. Yeah, sure thing. So this is carbon emissions that are currently being done by land use change. So we're also reporting on this for the GCSR report. We can just move on to the next slide then. I just want to show you guys something that we did, which is we're also downscaling the SDG index with neural networks by using high resolution satellite imagery provided by Planet in order to try to guess what's the SDG index by either state or municipalities. So we're also providing this data, which is indicative, but shows you that just the national level indices are not the whole story. So you can see here a whole variation within the countries. This is my last slide, so we can just jump to the last one where you can access all of this in our websites. So thank you very much. Sorry for stepping into the time.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Gleb. You showed to us the importance of the standardization of the information, also the effort of systematization of the information, and the value of the information in an easy way, accessible to everyone, like in a story maps. You also showed to us the importance of geospatial information to SDG and how you can take advantage of the global data set, especially Earth observation data sets, global data sets, to produce comparable information. Thank you very much for your presentation. Now I'd like to give the floor to Rihanna Price, technical lead, the DIV Global and NASA Lifelines. Please, Rihanna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Claudia, and thank you, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's great to be here. As mentioned, my name is Rhiannon Price, and I'm the program lead for a new initiative called NASA Lifelines, which I'm excited to share with you today. Next slide, please, Mark. So what is NASA Lifelines? We are a community of the future using earth science to improve humanitarian action specifically. Our goal is over the next 2 years to activate, next slide, please, Mark. To activate a community of over 2,500 experts across countries and across disciplines in order to spur innovations using our science to reduce human suffering. And now, of course, what we're doing by way of community building is very much focused on the humanitarian community, and the science community on one hand as well, and really unlocking the ability for these two, different kind of siloed groups of experts to really come together to be able to use satellite data and information in ways that are going to be most impactful for the most vulnerable. That said, a lot of what we're doing, while it's geared towards engaging the humanitarian community, is very, very much applicable to what we encounter in terms of the statistical world, what we're trying to do with census, what we're trying to do with SDG indicators, because it's all very much related and cross-cutting, as we know. Next slide, please, Mark. So onto that, what are we at NASA Lifelines doing over the course of these 6 years? So much of what we're doing is running community building programs meant to build bridges across these disparate communities. So where we are today, in just a few short months since we launched, we have over 6,000 individual visitors from around the world who have come to our impact hubs or checking out our programs and our websites and taking advantage of the resources that we're already making available. We already have really incredible representation globally as well. So of those over 6,000 some folks who are visiting and getting involved, we already have folks from 101 different countries who are represented in the mix of that NASA Lifelines community, which is exactly what we hope for. And some of the silos that we hope to break down are also our geographic silos as well. We've already launched 5 programs, which I'll speak about kind of in a minute here. We can go back one more still, Mark. We've already spoke about 5 programs, or excuse me, I will mention some of the 5 programs that we've mentioned, one of which is our Humanitarian Wayfinder program. So we already have 4 humanitarian organizations that are really helping us build and design all of these programs so that they're the most effective, so that they work the best for humanitarian organizations and for their needs and what they're trying to do with satellite data and information. We're already also seeing a lot of interest in our specific programs as well. And what I'll invite everyone today is if you have a moment, go to our website and check out all the incredible programs, some of which I'll introduce today, and start to sign up for the ones that resonate with you, because there are going to be different programs for scientists and experts and researchers, different programs for humanitarians and for policymakers and for funders as well. And then we've also got 4 more programs that are launching later this spring, over the next few months. So there's a lot of exciting things coming online that you should stay in touch with. Next slide, please. So this is our, as we like to call it at NASA Lifelines, our humanitarian's guide to the galaxy. But really it's about really a map of all the different programs that we're running, those 10 programs I mentioned. So there are 2 that I will double click on today in the time that I've got. And these are 2 that are about to be launched next month. So you can go to the website and sign up for them right away and be the first to know. One is our Earth Science Review Board. So all the way this, planet looking thing over here to the right. And our Earth Science Review Board is really meant to unlock the immense expertise that we have, both in kind of earth sciences, remote sensing, but also in social sciences, in economics, in anthropology, in statistics, you name it. The types of technical expertise that we need to answer questions using satellite data is diverse. And so we want to be able to unlock panels of experts that can come in and actually review a program design or review an investment design, in the early stages and get that expert impact, or excuse me, that expert feedback to make it more impactful down the line. So if you're interested either as a potential volunteer expert for our Earth Science Review Board, or if you have what we like to call a case or an idea that you want pressure testing, where you could use some expert feedback, where you're trying to use satellite data and tools, perhaps for the first time, or perhaps it's an approach you've used before and are just looking for a fresh take on that. The Earth Science Review Board is going to be a really fantastic program that we're launching, opening for cases next month. You can already sign up to be a volunteer though today. One of the other programs I wanted to highlight before I wrap for today is called our Ready for Impact. So all the way on the opposite side of the galaxy here, you'll see it. And this is quite a bit of a different program. So whereas the Earth Science Review Board is meant to really unlock expertise and provide more access to kind of these technical folks that are so limited in our ecosystems, Ready for Impact is really about taking ideas that are using satellite imagery and tools and that have been proven in certain contexts, and allowing those teams to pitch them to donors, funders, to actually get funding to scale them. So we're calling this Ready for Impact. We're opening up for applications next month. So if you have an idea and you would like to apply for the program to be able to pitch in front of donors like NASA and the World Bank and Amazon Web Services and others who are going to join us for this first session, please do apply. We would love to have you. Our first session is going to be in person at an event called Sat Summit in May in DC. Hope to see everybody there as well. But if you can't make it, we'll also have virtual sessions in the future. So there'll be something for everyone. And of course, that's not to go over all, not to gloss over all the other programs. There's a lot here that I think could be really interesting to this community as well. But I especially invite you, even if you're, not about, having time to get involved immediately in the programs, to stay tuned in terms of what we're doing, because there's a lot coming online, even after the spring with our humanitarian simulation. But a lot of these ideas are things that we would love for you as a community to take them and make them applicable for your own work, and to take these ideas and run with them even outside of what we're doing with our community building. So next slide, please, Mark. With that, I'll just invite everybody to sign up as well at nasalifelines.org. You can sign up for individual programs. You can get in contact with me or any of the team that's part of the NASA Lifelines initiative and some of our champions, and get to meet the community already. So I welcome everybody, and thank you for the time today.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It's very impressive with the size of this initiative and the importance of this initiative. Thank you very much. I'd like just to do one question, and for everybody, and I ask you to the participants of this session to be very, very brief, in very short ways. I'd like to ask you what prevents you from forming the partnership, and ask you to countries also, and how can you help the countries, everyone to do the partnerships, please. And for the countries also, if you want to, please feel free to talk. So in the order of the Denise, please, you first.
It's always the danger with being the first presenter in that one. What prevents it? I think, do you know what? I think it's probably the hardest thing is often just understanding cultural difference between the way you think about how a project should run or how data should be used is often one of the greatest challenges that I've experienced around the world with doing partnerships. So, I could say it's funding, and I could say it's contracts, and I could say it's a whole variety of other things, but I'd say it's that trying to be really open to understanding everybody's perspectives and points of view and cultural difference when you're trying to form a partnership is probably one of the most challenging parts there too. I'd also say that particularly around forming partnerships with projects, I think we can often be very blinkered about the objects and the goals of our own project and forget that there is often, when you go into a country or you're looking at a field of work, that there might be a lot of other organizations that could help with the work you're doing, could be great partners in trying to make what you're trying to do a success. And so I think one of the challenges is we often gloss over what others might be doing. And how important it is to bring those in and how you might be able to work together. So I think, being aware and trying to always look and see what everybody else is doing, either in a country or in a particular field, would be a really important one for building on partnerships too. So that's my piece of wisdom for that one.
Denise, please, Kenneth, your contribution, please.
So thank you very much. As part of the data cubes, it's quite new for most of the countries. We also have the same movement in Brazil, where they're supporting INEP in terms of forest. So in the context of Africa, what helped was first we started as a pilot in 5 countries. And what we did, we documented the lessons learned. And some of the lessons we learned were most institutions wants to be part of the ownership of the process. So engage them in the first process, just not like when you really need them, just make them aware of what is there. Then also we're able to fit it into the already existing data ecosystems. So if you go different countries like Ghana, there's already an ecosystem on SDGs, same as Senegal. So bringing those lessons learned. Then also when you become part of the data ecosystems, you realize these, like the work for Somalia that we shared, there was already a program which was funded by Islamic Development Bank, which is not part of our funding. So then it means we are leveraging on existing efforts and also all communicating to the same government that ours is to empower you. And before we leave, we need to transfer the knowledge to your teams so that we have that transfer of knowledge, transfer of capacity, as well as that trust that they can actually continue to document some of the use cases impact. This is able to scale up the funding. So the work we're able to do for Somalia with our partners was able to bring in other partners to work. And then we're also able to strike the partnership with the university, which is actually doing the research and in the message of leaving no one behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenneth, for your answer. Please, Guilherme.
Thank you. So I guess I would have to say consistency is a key word when we talk about being able to establish partnerships in the realms of data, right? So I think the SDGs and the SDG indicators already do a great job in that direction, in instilling like those are the goals and these are the indicators of whether we're getting close to those goals or not. But still, there's quite a bit that the countries and member states cannot fully agree on, and we run into that issue every year whereas after we collect the data that is out there, and then we put in the report, and so we make a public consultation. So we'll talk to each and every member state and try to see if they agree with what is being published. And it happens so very often that a number of member states will not agree to those numbers at all. And there, the reasons for that vary quite a bit, but a number of times is just a matter of, there's no consistency in terms of how that indicator should be calculated. So I guess it begins with consistency, but it has to pass through actually talking to one another, right? So it's going to happen in whatever the case. So I think I would go towards that direction.
Thank you, Guilherme, for your contribution. Please, Ryan.
Yeah, I would agree with what the other panelists have said, and I would add, for countries, if you are looking for certain kinds of partnerships or to tackle a certain kinds of barriers. So for instance, if you are looking for a certain kind of technical expertise, if you're looking for funding, if you're looking to spur new ideas, then I would invite you, as Denise said, to kind of just look to the world around you, look to the ecosystem. There are a lot of really fascinating, great initiatives that are happening where you don't have to recreate the wheel yourselves, where you don't have to pour all your money into doing the one thing yourselves. And so I think some of that we are definitely taking on as NASA Lifelines, and we have this incredible community already at our fingertips of scientists and researchers and technical folks who are very hungry to work and apply their skills in ways that are going to make a difference in countries. And you are the ones who are closest to those issues. So if we can break down our silos and again find ways to expose what you need to this incredible community of expertise, we can help do that too.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you very much for this exciting session, excellent session. In benefit of our agenda, I'd like to close this session and give the floor to Mark. Mark, please.
Thank you very much, Claudio, and thank you very much to all of our presenters for their contributions today. We are obviously running a little behind time today, but I hope you think that the discussions that we've had today have been very worth it. But we're going into the second session today that will be moderated by Ms. Rebecca Nilsson, who is the Interregional Advisor within the United Nations Statistics Division, and will be moderating the session on the impact of partnerships to build capacity in countries. And we have a panel of 4 esteemed participants from the Maldives, from Indonesia, from Norway, and from the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. I ask again to keep the conversation going in the chat, to share resources, and to ask any questions. And with that note, Rebecca, I will hand over to you and get your slides ready. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thank you for having me moderate this session. It's a pleasure to be part of this side event of the Statistical Commission and following after really excellent and interesting presentations in the first panel. And I'm looking forward also to listening to the panelists in this session. As you were saying, this part of the event focuses on the impact of partnerships to develop capacities in countries. And my background in this is that I manage a few different capacity development initiatives in statistics. And in this context, the most prominent one is the Data for Now initiative that we are running at the UN Statistics Division jointly with 4 other partners that you can see at the bottom of this slide: the World Bank, the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Data, the UN Development Programme, and the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, of which you also heard a presentation in the first panel. And we, as you will see in the next slides as well, we have been partnering with the global GGIM community to see how we can together help develop capacities in the sphere of geospatial and statistical integration. But very quickly, a bit more about the Data for Now initiative. We're aiming at strengthening the country's capacities and the use of innovation in terms of both methods, partnerships, for more timely and disaggregated data for sustainable development, so that we can fill information gaps that decision makers have. We know that there are a lot of SDGs that are currently not being produced, or if they are being produced, they may not be at sufficient disaggregated level. And here we're working with governments to try and identify the gaps. In addition to the core partners that I already mentioned, we're also working with a number of implementing partners. Digital Earth Africa, that was also presenting in the first panel, they shared themselves some of the work that we've been doing together. But we're also working with other UN partners and other non-UN partners. And at the moment, we're also partnering very much with the UN Expert Group on Integration of Statistical and Geospatial Information, and I'll share more of that in my next slides. So very quickly about the Data for Now initiative, and you can see and learn more about it also on our web pages. We have a set of guiding principles for how we want to approach the work in the countries, being 5 core partners. It was important for us to have a set of guiding principles. And as you can see from the middle, the red dot, we always focus on the countries prioritizing what the needs are. In this context of statistics division, we're initially and mainly working with national statistical offices, but supporting them in their engagement with other key stakeholders and users to identify needs, and then also continuing the engagement in that context. I won't go into detail on the other components, so we can move to the next slides. But if you want to learn more, again, the web page gives more details on the different aspects. So in the context, in the more wider context of what statistics division is doing, we also link up with the global mandates, with national action and local impacts. And here others probably can share a lot more details than I can on the benefits of geospatially integrated statistical data. But we have seen from engagements with the countries that we are supporting and working with that this is really a priority for a lot of countries. It improves decision making at geographical levels. It's leading to more efficient and focused public policies and public and private investments, as we also heard in the previous panel. And it can lead to improved quality of data, enabling better planning and supervision of data. And we're also in that context having all the linkages to the SDG framework, to the inter-agency expert group on SDGs, etc. Going back to the Data for Now and its implementation process, if you can click a few steps further, Mark. As I mentioned, we are looking at identifying the priorities and from there then finding the gaps and the needs in the priority process. And once we know what the needs and the gaps are, we are looking for innovative approaches to help fill the gaps. And here, as if you click the next, as you'll all know, very obviously, we have the linkages through the geospatial framework, right? And the use of geospatial information to fill data gaps. In that context, we also work towards then, once we worked on the innovation, to disseminate the statistics in engaging formats. And clicking 2 more to finalize this overview, we aim to keep both the relevant partners involved throughout the process as well as the users. So that is an approach we've now taken in a number of countries in different parts of the world. And a priority that many countries were highlighting was the need for more work on integration of geospatial and statistical information. And that was the starting point for us to engage with the global GGIM team at UNSD with Mark and colleagues. And also we were then linked up with the expert group on integration of statistical and geospatial information. So if we move to the next slide on this, you can see that we kind of have been working across the capacity development teams and what I've been calling, or what I called maybe more normative teams that work more on the normative development, on development of recommendations and guidance. So we've had individual capacity development activities through Data from Now, where we at Statistics Division are a core implementer. We worked with SCAP that also have their own capacity development initiatives, and also with Statistics Norway that have their own capacity development initiatives, while at the same time also engage in the Data for Now work, being a partner in this context. At the same time, we have all the work with the GSGF implementation guidance, the SDG geospatial roadmap, and other implementation activities. And all of this came together, if you can click a bit further, Mark, came together where we said we need to work together to put up something that can help countries understand where they are and maybe how they can move forward. So the team that works more in the expert group on integration of statistical and geospatial information developed a self-assessment tool, also with the input from the capacity development teams. This then also led us to organizing, if we can move to the next slide, to organizing jointly a high-level seminar on integration of statistical and geospatial information, having 20 countries traveling to Bangkok jointly with a number of the partners and experts that are involved in the expert group. And really discussing the self-assessment tool, discussing the different components across the statistics offices and the National Geospatial Information Agency. So most countries had representatives from both agencies, allowing new partnerships to form and hopefully also on how to discussing how they could improve relationships and work more collaborative moving forward. So as you can see, we are currently then also looking at how can the work be further implemented from that discussion that happened in Bangkok at the end of November, beginning of December last year. And here is where we really come down to the individual country level work. And we'll be hearing also from a couple of countries after my introduction here on what has been done and what the plans are. In addition to that, if we move to the next slide, there's also an idea that we want to expand this to allow other countries to involve. There are regions that we haven't covered. The workshop or the seminar was in English. Should we cover Francophone or Portuguese Africa, for instance? We're looking at all of this to also involve the wider community and allow more countries to engage in this and improve when it comes to implementation of the GSGF framework. I think I'm at the end, Mark, but let's have a quick look. Yeah, we have, of course, the key partners I've mentioned, but maybe just to keep them up here at the end to say this has really come out of a very useful partnership, and we're looking forward also to have more partners on board in the way forward. I know there are a few that already have expressed interest. So our program today, we will have 4 discussants. First, we will hear from Ms. Aishat Shahuda, who is the Deputy Director General at the Maldives Bureau of Statistics. Then we'll hear from Ms. Dia Retno Minami from the Geospatial Information Agency of Indonesia. We'll hear from Svein Reid from Statistics Norway and Mr. Richard Tonkin from the Statistics Division of the Economic and Social Commission of Asia and the Pacific. So I'll start with handing over to you, Shahuda, to hear some of the perspectives from Maldives. Looking forward to hear those. Thank you.
Do we go with the presentation? Yeah, just very quickly, I will highlight the work that we have started on using the GIS in our recent census in 2022 for the first time. Yeah, we are now still trying to, at the initial stages, we obtained the Land Survey Authority, our GIS partner agency, the layers that they are maintaining, like the layers, reefs, lagoon, islands, because we have this island topography in the country. So, but we needed more layers because for the census, you really need to, for the enumerators to try and visit these addresses. So that's how we try to do during the data collection. This time it was tablets were used. So we looked at the other information during the process that we collected the plots, the blocks and the addresses that using the geocoded manner where we can use the World Bank server solutions is what the software we used for the data collection. So something like this now we have tried to have integrated into the, this is in our capital. These maps are provided we have like from the island council, still it's not in a very structured manner. So some of these maps are some even hand drawn. So we have tried in the statistics office to digitize it and then try to come up with like geo coordinates for all these addresses where we went. So this is at the stage that we are right now. If you can move to the next. Yeah, so this is the capital city Male, where like you can already look at the population concentration. So we are now trying to uh, make it in such a way that we can anonymize it and show it in such a way that it doesn't like breach the confidentiality. So because some of the places are very small, some islands where the people are located, and we will be working on this further and try to disseminate it in geospatial integrated way in the very near future. Next slide, please. Yeah, so right, in addition to that, we are trying to look at the develop the land accounts for the Maldives. So this is again using the satellite imagery. So this is we are now focusing on the capital cities, and it's being done in partnership with the World Bank. So we are using satellite imagery to do this work. So it's the pilot we are doing. Can you please move the slides? Yeah. So it's just a very small scope right now to initiate. So for that we are using the survey authority, the mapping authority, and using the census data, and as well we have some capacity building trainings that is going to be held once we have this pilot data ready. So it's using already open source data right now and trying to look at the island maps that we have from the land survey authority. They have to have each island has to have a land use plan. So we are trying to use these to integrate and look at the data. Next slide, please. Yeah. So it's this is the more details of this where we are getting the data, so we can just move forward. Yeah. Yeah, the other pilot that we are working right now is on poverty mapping. So for that, we are working with the ADB team and then trying to use the household income and expenditure survey that we have, and to try and use the new census data to try and use small area estimation, as well as the earth observation data to try and map it to the like more granular level. So that's again another work that we are doing in this regard. Please move forward. Yeah. And what Vibeka just mentioned, we are working with UNST on improving the administrative data systems in the country. And right now we have identified already two key areas for this work, employment statistics and migration statistics. And we have used this mapping tool that has been developed by UN to try and look at this data, related data systems. So if you can move the slides faster, yeah. So for that, we are working very closely with the stakeholder agencies, like to initiate, we have this high level engagement at the policy level, then have the like technical team involved, and then this assessment tool was completed by the relevant agencies so that they will fill out the detailed information on the what are the like variables that they have and how they maintain it. So a lot of metadata so that we will have enough information to try and like integrate it later on to improve and use it for the quality checking and verification, as well as to try and integrate different data sets to try and come up with official statistics to in these areas. Yeah, can you just move forward? Yeah, yeah. So this is about the tool. So I will just skip this part because there's a limited time. So the results of the questionnaires we have used, and then our plan is to try and establish like more better protocols within National Statistical Office, our Maldives Bureau of Statistics, so that we are able to integrate this data in a proper manner, and then try to generate these statistics on a more regular frequency. Because in our case, we find that we can improve the by improving the administrative data in the country, like we can generate a lot of SDG indicators. So surveys and censuses are like more inferior content and more costly in the country. So yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so I was participating in the high level seminar, and it was really informative and interesting. So after that, we have had a lot of like support was from the team that were there. Like they are very supportive, and we were able to develop some partnerships already, even from the Malaysian team. Like they have already even identified a focal point, and so we together with the Maldives Land Survey Authority, our geospatial partner agency, like we are trying to come up with some sort of develop a brief plan so that we can try to like work together and implement it. It will still take some time because in our case, the layers and different layers are still at an initial stage of development. Yeah, that's. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for the time and for this opportunity.
Thank you very much for sharing, Shahuda, and I know for such a small statistics office, you're doing so much. It's really impressive. Well, and I'm also glad to see how it's led to collaboration across countries, right? That Malaysia is already supporting you. I think there've also been some engagement with Indonesia, and I think that's a good leeway also over to our speaker from Indonesia, Ms. Tia Retno Minarni from the Geospatial Information Agency. Over to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'm from Indonesia. I try to overview about the implementing integration statistic and geospatial information in Indonesia. Maybe the background is in increasing demand for location-based information and the need of present statistical data in smaller regional unit and improving the effectiveness of allocation of human and financial resources. Next. Indonesia have a territorial land area about 1.9 million kilometers and in water area about 6.5 million kilometer and number of island about 17 island, that is including 38 provinces and 490 regencies and 98 cities, and about the 83 and 794 villages and population about the 270 million in 2020. It is a big challenge to be able to integrate geospatial information and statistical data on a detailed scale. Next. This is the concept of GSGF. There's key 5 principle and 5 key element. Next. The principal one is use of fundamental geospatial infrastructure and geocoding. In Indonesia is this. There are official base map at scale of 5,000 in several areas and autocorrectified high resolution satellite images. And addresses in Indonesia are not yet properly standardized. Next. Geocoded unit record data in a data management environment. In current condition in Indonesia is there are regulations regarding administration area code, which is regulated by the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the Central Bureau Statistics have also created statistical world area code, and there is still no document to regulate the collection and storage of geospatial data in statistical activities. Next, the principle is common geographies of dissemination of statistics. This is the current boundary condition about the administrative area published by BAG and the statistic working area map published by BPS. Do not match. Not all do not match. Next, the principle 4 is statistical and geospatial interoperability. In this principle, enable greater standardization and use of data in Indonesia right now. This is Indonesian One Data Policy, then Indonesia One Map Policy regulated. So the standardization in the statistic is Indonesia Data Hub, and for the geospatial is KUGI or geographical catalog. Next, the principle 5 is accessible and usable geospatial enable statistic. There is a National Geospatial Information Network System. In Indonesia is the JIGN, we call JIGN, and JIGN support the dissemination, coordination, and management. Indonesia have INA Geoportal, and there is the linkage with government data in INA SDA network. Next. There is implementation of statistical data and geospatial information integration. We have a partnership between geospatial data and family planning agency in Indonesia. This partnership is mapping families at the risk of having stunted children using family data collection in 2021. The process is in 2020 is preparation of MOU document between BIG and Family Planning Agency in Indonesia. Then 2021 is data collection, and one in 2022 is data processing. Then the end of we have a dashboard development to monitor the mapping of stunted children. Next. Family data collection is carried out about the National Population and Family Planning Agency. This is data collection regarding of socio-economic condition of each family in Indonesia. This data collection activity produce micro data at the family level, not just village level, but family level. Then some of variable recorded include the number of age of family member, education level, occupation, use of contraceptives, and housing condition. Next. This is the mapping of distribution of families at risk of having stunted children. We have a national level and provincial level, then regency level, so sub-district level, and the very more aggregation in village level. The visualizing data using map ini can help stakeholder to see spatial distribution pattern of the factor of influencing child stunting and to choose priority area for intervention. Next. This is the documentation of event related of prevention of stunting that the President Joko Widodo working visit to NTT, where I'm here now in March 24, which aim to examine the stunting reduction program. Then the intervention of the housing program. Then the intervention use the dashboard that BIG build, the dashboard stunting and family that stunting risk in Indonesia. There is the geotagging of the family in each home that the distribute the indicator of family in Indonesia. Next. This is the with the that data from family planning agency. We have two SDGs mapping indicators. That one of the indicator 7.1 and 0.2 family percentage that use gas as in region Kalimantan, then indicator in 6.2 and 1 is percentage family that have a proper house and proper toilet. Then the indicator in 1.2 is percentage the people have the register in Indonesia. Next. Next plan, we have the preparation of document and regulation related to geospatial and statistical integration. Then we encourage the use of official base map and ortho-rectified high-resolution satellite. And 3, we have a synchronized village administration area boundary map with statistical work area map. And 4, we will building an enterprise GIS platform so that several agencies can manage, share, and use geospatial enabled statistical data to address a variety of needs, including data creation, modification, analysis, and dissemination. And 5, providing education on training to other agencies carrying of statistical activities so they can produce geospatial enable statistical data in according with established standard. Next. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much for sharing your work and experiences with us. It's really interesting to see all the work you've done and also the collaboration that you have with other agencies. And I'm very happy to also see how you're now planning to continue and further develop the relationship you have with the statistics office following the high level seminar in Bangkok. And how this also can help move us forward and move forward in bringing in other agencies, which the engagement between statistics offices and national geospatial information agencies is really just a starting point for wider engagements as well. And I think this also is a good leeway into the presentation from Statistics Norway, and looking forward to hear your perspectives, Svein, on the integration of geospatial and statistical information.
Thank you, Vibeke. I'm Svein Reed from Statistics Norway, working in the geospatial unit at Statistics Norway. So great to be here. So next slide, Mark. So just to talk a bit, I wanted to talk a bit about, it's about partnerships, but Statistics Norway and international commitments and cooperations we have. A lot of them, well, there are several prone. Being in Europe, we have the EU agreement and the European Statistical System, Eurostat. We're also involved in the UN organizations, OECD, but a lot of Nordic cooperation. And this is in many ways where geospatial is one of these parts. So for many years, we've been involved in ESTP training, giving courses, both on for Europe, but also the Middle East, former Soviet Union, but also then through more, bilateral cooperations we have with other countries. So next slide, Mark. So here a map of all the countries which Statistics Now Norway partner with. We like using that word. We are partnering with Ukraine, Nepal, and Namibia. So we have a division for international development cooperation since 1994 with 16 full-time employees, which I think is quite a lot out of a total of, 800 employees at Statistics Norway. And our main goal is on the national statistics systems and then official statistics in partner countries, how we can partner, how we can contribute. And these corporations are funded mainly by the Norwegian government. And knowledge and capacity sharing is our point here. And then the data for now, that's sort of also through this why we are involved in the data for now cooperation. But it's quite large here, and as it says in my green box there, 100 staff members at Statistics Norway contributed to one or more projects here in 2023. So instead of using consultants, we like to use staff members, people who are close actually to the statistics production themselves. So I myself and many of our colleagues, we work in statistic production, actually using georeferenced address data or the road networks and so on, but also then contributing to here. And I think that it's a vision we have. We like to be close to also the statistics production and hopefully giving those insights and then seeing how partnerships are important in Norway and what we can do and how it works in other countries and see how we can improve by collaboration. I think a lot of it draws on, we need to have partnerships nationally with the mapping authorities, with the cadastral authorities, with the tax authorities. For us, and I think for everybody, it becomes a sort of, a fundamental is if we want to create data for now and want to sort of be able to give the knowledge to society, or if it's for SDGs or other things, this is this understanding of how collaboration and partnerships is just essential. So if you move on to the next slide, Mark. And I think this way of thinking of it is the way of how we are allowed to think of it, or that is also why Statistics Norway has become a supporting partner and a key partner also in the Data for Now project. And Vibeke told us about the high-level seminar, which we just had now in Bangkok. So Statistics Norway, we're allowed to be partner in this and co-financing also several of the countries' participation here, but we're also allowed to be a part of the resource group and how are we going to go about this this high-level seminar. Okay, next foil. Oh, I think this is, you skipped some here. Something wrong? Yep, there we go. Okay, so Vibeke has already talked about this and shown, and I've stolen some foils here. I think the great thing about partnerships is we can steal their slides. And I think I want to focus on this because what the resource group and what we chose to do is centering the high-level seminar around the GSGF assessment tool developed by the expert group on integration of statistical and geospatial information. And I think this is a key. I think this is a sort of a red thread, I would say, for how when we went about this is sending out this tool to all the participating countries before the seminar, but also it being part of how we went about the actual the workshop. There are 5 dimensions here: governance, institutional capacity, policy and legal, people, human resources and capacity, data interoperability, and technology and infrastructure. And even if this is a tool, this is a tool to be sent out, and I think to be able to use by all countries. But it also, I think an important part of looking at it is also a tool for setting the playing field, allowing different regions, different countries, different challenges to have a common language to talk about these things and to have a common language to understand what maybe our challenges are, and then splitting this up in dimensions where it's easier to sort of, easier to address the different issues. So if we move on, Mark. Because all these dimensions and how we go about this and all these dimensions, it's all about what we see is creating the data which we need and each country needs for filling in the gaps. It could be at the national level, building a national address system, transparency of exchange of policies, but also at the SDG level, at the international level, at the national level. So, so if we move on again there, Mark. And as this has been shown before again by Vibeke, the purpose of the seminar is, well, we focus on these dimensions. We focus on different countries talking about challenges, what are the challenges on these different dimensions, but then the outcome of it being actually each country defining action plans for the different dimensions. If it is, what of these different dimensions do we want to, do we need to take further actions? Is it collaborative? We see already Malaysia making collaborations with Maldives, as we're talking to, and also Indonesia. But I think this was a sort of way of focusing on it. It's that we have focus groups on these dimensions, also split by the regions that were there, and then actually having each country define action plans and defining actions which we are going to take forward, so toward developing action plans. So if you go to the last slide, I think, Mark. if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Could sound like a Facebook motto, I guess. But in the discussions we had before the seminar, this was thrown out, and it's, well, I think it struck both me and others. That's what it's about. That is what the high-level seminar is also about, appealing to that this is just essential, both for developing national initiatives, if it's building address systems, if it's building transport networks, if it's basically getting good enough data to be answering the questions which are important for society. It's essential for providing and maintaining complete and relatively trustable geodata sets for the fundamental data sets that comprise each of our nation's spatial data infrastructures, available then for public and private users. So I think I would like to finish on, I think that both myself and also others saw that the format that was chosen thinks works, and as Vivek has already thrown out a suggestion, this way of dealing with it, and then having these tools which allow one to sort of, okay, how can we get different regions, there's different challenges, and we have different ideas of where we want to go. Having something like that as a tool to help us be more concrete on how we are able to move forward. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Svein, for your presentation and for sharing these thoughts. I think it's very true, right? How we all come together and how we can really take things forward using different formats, different approaches to develop. And yeah, also big thanks to Statistics Norway for engaging in all of this and bringing all of your experts into the work. And also helping connect with the wider community. Some of the slides you were showing also link us back to the initial set of presentations. So it helps in the wider community engagement as well. And I'm looking forward to the continued collaboration in capacity development following the seminar. And yeah, over to our colleagues who are in Bangkok, to Richard Tonkin, who is working for ESCAP, that was hosting the seminar, and is also a key partner in the work of strengthening the support when it comes to statistical and geospatial integration. Over to you, Richard.
Okay, thank you very much. So as Vivek said, my name's Richard. I'm a statistician working with ESCAP Statistics Division, hopefully going to complement what we've just heard from UNSD, from the Maldives, Indonesia and Norway, but providing a bit of a regional perspective. So next slide, please, Mark. Okay, so I want to start by providing a little bit of context. So the mandate for all we do comes from our member states, and in ESCAP Statistics Division in particular, it comes through our Committee on Statistics, which is made up of the chief statisticians of all ESCAP member states. So at that 7th session of that committee, a couple of years ago now, the committee called for ESCAP to take steps to facilitate capacity development on the use of new and big data sources and the development of tools for integrating traditional and non-traditional data sources. So acting on this mandate, we launched last year a project supporting building the institutional capacity of national statistical offices in Asia and the Pacific to use innovative, new and big data sources for official statistics in support of the 2030 agenda. This project is funded by the UN Peace and Development Trust Fund, which was established by the Chinese government. Through this project, we're working with 20 different countries across the region and undertaking a range of different activities, including in-country capacity building support, holding a range of thematic workshops alongside remote trainings and mentoring, developing a range of different knowledge products, including practical guides, and also helping support knowledge sharing across the region and across the globe. So cutting across these activities, there's a set of guiding principles which we're working to, including a focus on usable solutions for official statistics, focusing on priorities identified by national users, but perhaps most relevant for today's session, a focus on partnership-based working, supporting collaboration at the national, regional, and global levels. Next slide. So show this quickly. This slide just lists the 20 countries that are a part of this project, and we're very happy to be able to fund a good number of them to participate in the high-level seminar that's already been spoken about. Next slide. So through the project and through our other work, it was very clear that the use of Earth observation and geospatial data for official statistics is a priority for many countries in the Asia-Pacific region. But in order to gaps to address data gaps, to better monitor progress on national development priorities, as well as to support the production of geographically disaggregated data in order to support the more effective targeting of resources. But in order for countries to realise this ambition, there's a need for increasing capacity for geostatistical integration at the national level, with greater collaboration between national statistical offices and national geospatial information agencies. So because of that, we're very happy that with UNSD, both with colleagues from the UNGGIM Secretariat and also those working on the Data for Now initiative, Norway, and with other members of the expert group on the integration of statistical and geospatial integration through co-organising this high-level seminar. Vibeke and Sven have already spoken about the seminar, so I don't want to repeat what they said, but I just wanted to note that organising seminar was incredibly beneficial, helping facilitate the sharing of global resources and frameworks, for being able to utilise the GSGF self-assessment tool, which was developed by the expert group, through supporting the sharing of national experiences in one event in a way that simply wouldn't have been as effective with any one of the partners just working alone. The feedback that we got from participants confirmed that they found the event incredibly helpful, which is great. But it's very important to stress that we really hope and intend that this seminar is the start of something rather than an end point. As Sven mentioned, through the seminar, the NSOs and NGIAs working together to start to develop very initial national action plans. But for the seminar to truly be a success, these need to be refined and then implemented, which will require strong partnerships both nationally and internationally. Next slide, please. So in these last couple of slides, I just wanted to highlight a few countries where we've actually already been able to start work with the countries following the seminar, and just mention some of the partnerships that are involved in that work. So in Indonesia, we're supporting the One Data and Rice initiative, which is focused on combining Earth observation and ground truth data for rice estimation. This involves a really big partnership at the national level, bringing together kind of the National Statistical Office, BPS, the National Research and Innovation Agency, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of National Development Planning, and also the Geospatial Information Agency. And to support the work internationally, we're bringing together a range of different partners, including colleagues from FAO, experts from the University of New South Wales, and from the UN Big Data Hub in Hangzhou in China. In Kyrgyzstan, we're similarly supporting the refinement and implementation of the National Action Plan, which was developed in high-level seminar, including helping the development of national geospatial data inventories and metadata, as well as supporting the sharing of data between different entities, all with the ultimate aim of helping the the national government address priority data gaps for the SDGs. That work is able to move forward thanks to the excellent collaboration between the National Statistics Committee and the State Agency on Land Resources at the national level, as well as our own collaboration with UNSD. And next slide. So also just wanted to very quickly mention our work in Vanuatu, where there's a focus on land use and land cover data in order to support the production of land accounts, which have been identified as a really foundational need for supporting many of the government's environmental policies. Again, this work is supported by strong collaboration at a national level, including with the Vanuatu Bureau of Statistics and the Departments of Lands and Forests, amongst many others. While a key partner at the international level is the Pacific Community, SPC, and their Digital Earth Pacific platform, which launched in late 2023 and really provides a very similar resource to Digital Earth Africa, from whom we heard in the first session today. So finally, I just wanted to highlight that we intend to work with other Asia Pacific countries who participated in the high-level seminar to help build on its outcomes, in particular working with the NSOs and NGIAs to help them move forward in their action plans with the ultimate aim of supporting the countries in addressing key national data gaps. We want to do that in partnership with UNSD, with Statistics Norway, and hopefully other members of the e.g. ISGI. And I'd just like to finish by flagging up that we'll be holding a in-person side event at the Statistical Commission for representatives of the 20 project countries. It's going to be taking place on Saturday in New York City. There'll be an opportunity to hear more about what we've got planned for the coming year, kind of in this area and in others, and also have a discussion about how we can best work together. So for those who are representing one of those 20 countries, we hope to be able to see you at that event. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing, Richard, and also for providing some concrete examples and especially on the follow-up as we were highlighting. We are running quite a lot over what we had intended in terms of the time for the side event, but I wanted to see if there's any very last quick question, and maybe also check if any of the participants have any specific points in kind of how we can help potentially with capacity development in specific needs. Yeah, if there's one quick question, yeah, I see Fazuan. Please come in. Please introduce yourself quickly. Or was that a mistake? I see the hand is down again. Anyone else who who wants to come in quickly to ask a question, to reflect on some of the things that were shared? So then let me do a very brief summary of my take from this. I think we have a lot of really good partnerships ongoing. There's a lot of really interesting work happening at country level, at regional level, and at global level. And all these different levels also seem to work very well together around the work of integration of geospatial and statistical information, which, as Svein was saying, hopefully will take us far and will allow us to really progress on a lot of the areas where we may not have progressed sufficiently in the past. And I want to thank the speakers of this part of the side event for sharing their knowledge and sharing their inputs, also further helping us get inspired, learning and seeing how we can take this even forward from the meeting today. Yeah, thank you so much to Mark also for organizing this, and to everyone who attended. It's been a pleasure engaging with all of you. And back to you, Mark, for the final closing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Claudio, for moderating. And thank you very much to our panelists. I would love to give a virtual clap to everybody. So please send your reactions in. We are running 28 minutes after time, but we did get up to 71 people in this side event. I think that we've seen the value and the depth of opportunity that's out there. So I'd urge everyone that's listened in today, if you want to engage with any one of our discussants, any one of our moderators, please get in touch with us. The materials will all be posted on the website of the Statistical Commission in due course, as will the recording of this side event for you to share with your colleagues. Thank you very much. It's good morning from New York. I say good night to some of you that are in the Far East, and wish you a very good day to everyone in between. Thank you very much. Goodbye.